Hi guys, good afternoon. Hope you've enjoyed lunch, and it's great to be here today to talk to you. So I guess today what I'm here to do is tell you a story, which is a nice thing to have after lunch. It's really my story and BP's story, and what we've been doing of late, and the journey that we've recently been on. The good news though is that effectively we're not going to do it by death by PowerPoint. I've only got one slide to show you today. So the story, a journey. To go on a journey, you need a road. So this is our road. And so the next half an hour or so, effectively I'm going to tell you how our recruitment team has changed at BP, how our process has changed that we follow to use recruitment, but especially and particularly how the technology underpinning recruitment that we use at BP has completely been changed and rebuilt, and how we've rebuilt that plane whilst in flight. Ultimately, therefore, this is a small part of how BP keeps advancing. So, myself, my name's Tim Lemaire, and I've got a great role at BP. I lead the team that looks after all the technology underpinning resourcing technology. And that covers quite a bit. At BP, the teams are quite a big team, about 200 recruiters, hiring about 10,000 hires per year, and about 300,000 applications therefore go through our systems in terms of experienced hire and early careers. So I joined in 2017, and back then, before that point in time, I was a recruiter. So not particularly into technology as a job, but that was a great foundation to the role that I do today and the team I work within. And in terms of getting there, how did I get there? Well, technology's always been a passion with what I do. I've always used it to my advantage, and I can see I can make a real difference in what I do in terms of recruitment and how we recruit as a firm, as a business. So that led me into a few different roles at my previous companies, involved in implementations of global ATS systems, Taleo and Workday in particular. And that experience, therefore, gave me the opportunity to come into BP to lead the team looking after the technology in this space. So as I said, 2017, I joined BP, and fast forward to today. Our technology is in quite a good place. But back then, quite a different story. You'd probably think that BP, being a big company, everything would work correctly, and the technology would be humming just so. But actually, that really wasn't the case, and it was far from reality. I picked up on this point when I first joined BP, and I worked with a team based in India who looked after quite a lot of our first-line support for candidates and our recruiters. And this team were dealing with hundreds of queries per week around technology, not necessarily working the way it should do, and having challenges around accepting offers for candidates, or managers couldn't see our CVs. And it was a really good sign that the tech wasn't in the best of places. So that was really quite an amazing thing to go through, and a catalyst to really move forward with our change journey ahead of us. Journey, road. So within a few months, and after being there for a bit, and this may be a familiar story to some in the room, we got involved as an entire HR team globally in a big project. And it was quite a juggernaut of a project, and we called it HR modernisation. And that big project, therefore, was quite simple as a concept. Take our current HR system, which was SAP, take it out globally for BP, and put in Workday. So quite a big thing to do. And it was a colossal challenge. And effectively, for us in particular, within resourcing technology, the challenge for us was that our ATS needed to connect to Workday. But at the time, all our systems were different. And the challenge for us, therefore, was that nothing was uniform. Nothing followed a pattern. The systems across the globe were in a federated state, and everyone followed a different way of doing things. What BP, therefore, over the years had created was a big ball of slippery, wet technological spaghetti. And we were there trying to tangle it. But if the move to Workday was the catalyst around why we had to change things and change our ATS, what else made the change an important one to do? Well, the turbocharging element was the fact that we looked at the fact that BP's been around for over 100 years, and BP's changed a lot in that time. Until recently, the business was quite simple. We dug for oil, we extracted it, and we made stuff and we sold it. But look at the business today in 2019. BP's completely changed and is totally different. And I've got a video which hopefully explains a bit about that.
Here at BP, we're proud to have helped fuel progress for more than a century. But now we need to look to the future with fresh eyes. Because over the coming years, billions of people will lift themselves out of poverty, making the demand for energy and the demands on our planet even greater than ever. This is the dual challenge, one of the greatest issues of our time. We all need to play our part. You, me, everyone. It won't be easy. True progress seldom is. But with our scale and know-how, we truly believe that if we can keep doing the right thing, they can keep thriving. If we can keep working as a team, they can keep playing as one. If we can keep creating opportunities, they can keep taking them. If we can keep achieving our ambitions, they can keep achieving theirs. If we can keep innovating, they can keep triumphing. If we can keep hiring incredible people, they can keep doing incredible things. If we can keep seeing possibilities everywhere, then we can keep expanding and nurturing our world-class team and overcome any challenges the energy landscape presents. We are all capable of crafting incredible careers whilst genuinely contributing to work that has meaningful impact for millions. We believe that if we each play our part, as we grow and achieve our ambitions, we will all keep advancing.
So historically BP, major oil company, and that's been correct. But I say recently that's changed. What we do has changed and the landscape has shifted. You'll have seen in that video examples, floating solar farms, wind turbines, natural gas, operations of biofuel in Brazil, and also huge data screens, drones and tablets. Add to this huge data centers, artificial intelligence, robotics, augmented reality, and virtual reality. All things that perhaps you wouldn't associate with BP of old, but these things are a part of us today. BP, therefore, today is more of a tech company than you'd imagine, and crucially, more than those that we need to try and attract would think. So this is the space we sit in to attract this talent and to interact with them in a different way. We need to look for different ways, more modern ways, to ensure our candidates have better experiences. Our business is always changing and adapting, and that's great. But for HR and for recruitment, that created a problem. Our systems hadn't progressed at the same rate. So the scale of the project in hand, I guess over the years, different parts of BP, as I mentioned earlier, had joined recruitment at different times. They had developed their own ways of working. They had their own different reporting lines, and the result was nothing really worked. In terms of reporting, total nightmare. Candidates and managers often received a varied service. Our data was becoming less and less accurate, and all of this creating, therefore, was a daily problem for my team to manage to make sure that we could support the systems that were growing up over the years. The problem was sizable, but also it gave us a great opportunity. We could start with a blank canvas and create something much, much better. The need to connect and rebuild to our ATS had given us a chance to pause, to think, and think what we really wanted to do with our systems and our technologies. A good example of this is really around internal talent. And quite often our recruiters would want to go to our hiring managers and take CVs to them up front, the initial stages of recruitment. And we know internally we had the talent, we had the people. But we do, I guess what most recruiters do, to find the internal talent, they go on LinkedIn. And isn't that crazy? They go on LinkedIn, a third-party company, to look and to search for internal talent. So that was our problem statement. And we took the opportunity to create a new technology in-house and to integrate our ATS to our talent and learning system, where all the data around our internal employees was stored. That data was then pulled out of the ATS, pulled out of the talent system into our ATS, where it was searchable by our recruiters. And that meant that, therefore, recruiters could go forwards to work with managers and present to them candidates. And therefore, we'd know those candidates, what their wants were, their desires, their ambitions, where they wanted to work, who knew their performance ratings, the locations they were based in, and everything else about those candidates. We had all the information at our fingertips to then go forward, to then go to those managers with the best internal talent available to us. Now, that project was quite big. It took us about over a year and a half to do in total, because in theory, we've got 200 fields of data on each person, 50,000 employees, big number, and therefore that information goes across every single day. It changes all the time. Once you put in the mix, working with IT security, digital security, data privacy, and all the different elements of IT to make sure the project works and does what it should be doing in the correct way. It was quite a big project to do, but it was a great example of where we took a problem and turned it into a solution, and now we can go to our managers, as I say, with great examples of internal candidates. But what else have we been up to over the 2 years or so? So we've effectively been working, taking BP from the old world to the new world. And we now have an entire suite of new technologies at our fingertips. Everything now operates as one single global process. Our recruitment teams now follow the same way they do things from one team to another team, from one country to another country. And we've built numerous integrations linking all these systems together and ensuring that data flows from one to the other. It allows our managers in a new world to self-service themselves with Workday, creating requisitions. Those recs then flow through into our ATS to be assigned to the relevant recruiter, all seamlessly. We've also introduced new augmented reality software for writing job adverts. So hopefully gone are the days where perhaps the tired old job description was copied and pasted into the candidate advert window. The candidate then sees a pretty lousy advert. Now we've put in place new software to ensure that the text has been written correctly. It calls out any words that are slightly dull, unappealing. It also calls out gender diversity words or where there's gender bias, and highlights to our recruiters where perhaps these words can be changed or adapted to ensure that effectively all our job descriptions can be seen in a neutral light and they are equal opportunities for both male and female. We've also introduced new technology around, video interviewing of candidates. So now, globally, we can put in place technology to ensure that candidates go through live interviews or pre-recorded interviews, all to therefore give our candidates and our managers a choice and a chance to use a tech or the style of interview that best suits their needs at early stages of interview. And again, whilst video interviewing is not necessarily the newest tech in the world, to put it in place at BP globally and consistently has been quite a big challenge for us to do that. And there's a good example on this story exactly where in our Houston office in the US, in 2017, you may remember Hurricane Harvey had a major impact in the south part of the US. It actually destroyed our offices, and the damage was so severe that we had nowhere for our employees to go. Our US team were in the middle of their graduate campaign at the time to attract all our hires, and therefore they had nowhere for the graduates to come to, nowhere to interview the people. The teams had nowhere to work. And so we had a real problem, the fact that we had to keep progressing with our graduate campaign to ensure that we had the right people hired at the right time. And so what we did, we turned the technology around a bit and thought, let's take the live interviews that we're going to have face-to-face and now convert those to on-screen interviews with candidates. And I think it's very fair to say that without that intervention to move to video interviewing technology and actually working with it already at BP, there would have been a sizable impact on our graduate hiring that particular year. But what else have we been up to? We've also had a look at candidate interviews. And I think there's also a good example here, whereby in the years gone by, we're all familiar with the story where you bring a candidate up, you want to arrange an interview time for them to meet with a manager, another interviewer, and after maybe 5 phone calls, you found a time that works for all parties. And then you're just about to book it and confirm it with those people. And then you find out, just as you're about to do so, the last meeting room in the building's been booked by somebody else. There's no more rooms available, and you have to start again. So one more piece of tech we've introduced at BP is effectively around bringing that and turning it into an IT piece. Now our recruiters can tag the managers, the rooms, and the other interviewers as need be into our software, which allows them to go away, and the tech then effectively sends the candidates an email. They can click on that email. At that point, they are presented with a live virtual diary. The candidates can then go through and they can identify all the slots where everything is free for all parties concerned. They can book that slot. Once the slot's been booked, it sends emails to all parties to confirm, books meeting rooms, and it secures it in everyone's diaries. And that happens instantaneously. So hopefully the days of multiple phone calls going out to multiple candidates and arranging those interviews are now behind us. But then as you go forwards and you get offered a job at BP, that's also changed. So again, gone are the days where perhaps some of our countries were still posting out contracts to candidates and offer documentation. And then 5 days later, posting it out again because it went missing in the post. Today, this is all done online globally at BP. Contracts, offer documents, forms to fill in, all singly put into one candidate portal where they can go in and do everything online as need be. Oh, sorry. Okay, once those candidates are progressing forward with their online checks, for example. Everything kicks off to medical checking providers, background checking providers, all through integrations, all happens seamlessly. Results coming back into IETS to let the recruiters know that that process is now complete and the candidates can progress forward into being hired. But I think all this technology has been quite a big challenge for the team. It's taken us 2.5 years to get to the point where we've actually successfully put it in place globally. And to do that, we've had an array of contractors. We've had consultants from our vendors, and of course, someone to understand multiple integrations. But also, we've had workshops, design sessions, meetings about meetings. And I'm sure at some point, someone even suggested having a meeting about more meetings. But understanding the requirements is also key to us. We have to unpick the hundreds of ways things are done at BP globally beforehand and work to find those new global processes together, which has been tricky given the backdrop that people have grown up with their own process and they'd like the way it works before. Everything's had to be solutioned, designed, built, tested, and then retested. Quite tricky sometimes, given the tech we were integrating to as part of our bigger HR modernisation project wasn't always live at the same time we were live. But also, whilst this was going on, we had to also keep in mind that we were operating live recruitment for BP. The tap didn't slow down. We still had multiple recs to hire, multiple candidates to fill. Candidates to fill? Recs to fill. Candidates to hire. But we got there. And also throw into the mix people in the team leaving, joining, going on maternity leave. People coming at us with weeks to go before go live saying, one more requirement for you, and I forgot to mention this, and can we get this done as well? So quite a lot going on in that space too. But also, it wasn't just the HR modernisation piece. We also had an outsourced team in India, as I mentioned earlier. We took the opportunity with this project to say, how can we make things better, not just for the tech, but also for the process that we follow? And so we took the opportunity to look at how BP was changing the modernisation piece. They were creating a new in-house team to support HR. And we thought, let's take that team and ensure all of the queries that our team in India are answering, and let's get it done by BP people in a BP way and a much better service. So that's also moved in-house internally. And we've also looked at the process we follow to ensure that things don't revert back to the old days of spaghetti. We want to make sure there's cadence around our change requests, there's a process in place to make sure the things go through rigor, and there's a plan to these things in happening together. So how did it conclude? Well, effectively, I think in May this year, we reached our crescendo of work. We went live with our new systems. And I think ultimately, the team pushed hard. We made the most of it, and it's been really hard since go live. It's not just stopped at that point in time. We have to then bed everything in, make sure it works correctly, pick up any defects that we're working with and try to resolve those. Also, I think ensuring our systems worked correctly was fine. But working in an environment where actually at BP everything changed, not just in recruitment but HR, overnight, globally for everyone, was quite a big challenge to get through. And whilst the systems did what they should be doing, I think at sometimes the weak part was the employees. I think, again, as I mentioned, the workload didn't drop, it didn't slow down, but again, everything had changed. There was no let-up in workload, and it was tough times for all concerned. New process, new tech, new organisation. But also, I think one of the big challenges we also faced was bad data, and it's still a ball and chain around our feet today. I remember a time when someone said to me, we've got a small project we need to look at around data. It'd probably take a few days to look at, and that would be the end of it. And I think 3 weeks later, we were still getting to the guts of it. It took a real long time to make sure that data was cleaned, corrected, and it really highlighted the fact that data is a key thing to make sure it's correct going forwards, and that perhaps bad data doesn't slow you down. So yes, we had our problems, and it wasn't all plain sailing, but we've been lucky enough to work with great HR colleagues across the team, and more specifically in my team, who've worked hard and achieved their goal at the end of the day, which they set out to do in 2017. So I think it's important to, again, not underestimate the data, to ensure you have the correct level of resource in the team. I think we, at one point towards the end, identified the resource requirements in the team weren't quite meeting what we needed to do. But we were so far towards the end of the project at this point in time, we didn't have the time to go and find somebody, to bring them on board, to train them. It would take time away from the team and what they're doing today. So resource planning is obviously critical, and I think if we could do our time again, we probably would put a few more people onto the project. Okay, so in terms of what next? Well, BP, it's not slowed down. The project is finished, but we've still got loads more to do. We're going into phase 2, you could say. And we've got so much more to do in this space around technology. We're going to look at a new CRM next year for candidates, so standing up a new sourcing team to ensure we can attract, going forward, the correct candidates. And we've got a way of keeping in touch with them, building pipelines. We're also looking at other projects around AI and chatbots for candidates. We've also got hundreds of other smaller projects we're working on. There's small little ideas, experiments, proofs of concepts, and a backlog of about 180 items at the moment, which is still on our log from things we couldn't get done in time for the project. We're still working through. So we've made a big step forwards, and perhaps we're not best in class today. We need to improve further, and some of you may have been listening who have been similar journeys. So to my mind, all we've done is bring ourselves up to a holding position where we can springboard from going forwards. So to conclude, I think tech's great. I think it can enhance your stakeholder experiences. I think you can attract the best talent, and it's really a difficult thing to do, but tech can enhance to do that. And so you have a choice. You can either keep using the tech you have today and keep doing what you used to do, or you can take a different path. Many of your competitors will be working in this space, and they're taking advances, sharpening their technologies and enhancing their tech behind it. But some won't be, and therefore what's an opportunity you have? You can steal a march on those competing firms. You can take the opportunity, you can change the dial. We've been through huge change at BP, and it hasn't got to be that way. You can find a scale that works for you and that meets your business. Explore, talk to vendors in this space, many are out there today, to find a budget, obtain buy-in, and decide what you really want to do. I fully believe the game of TA tech is changed, and it will keep advancing. So ultimately, I think to conclude, I would say that TA, and candidates, is a great combination, and it hopefully will help you win the fight to find that next best candidate. Thank you, guys.